Actually, I wanted to ask too many questions to Mr. Dogra, but he himself asked so many questions. So, for which perhaps we don't have the answers. I'm impressed by what Mr. Ajay Sahai says that we are talking too much. Maybe that is one of the ills of democracy. And because of that, we talk too much. And while we were talking too much, maybe they were doing too much. But from the panelists, what I understand is there is something terribly wrong, not with the border, but with our economy. And we were not able to face that problem. As Mr. Sahai says, maybe it's still not too late. We can start now. And as Mr. Dhar was quoting the Global Times of China, just day before yesterday, the Global Times had an editorial in which they said, China is not India's enemy, and China will not become India's enemy. India's real enemy is itself. Though it comes from a Chinese newspaper, I think it's really fantastic. And they said this in the context of, which I would like the panelists also to discuss, India again asserting that we will not join the RCEP. It was in October 2019 that we refused to join them. And now this border conflict has perhaps made it more affirmed that we will not join. Does joining that or not joining make a difference? I would like the panelists to throw a light on that.
These FTAs without preparing, and I said it in the beginning, you can't get into this process of globalization, with no preparedness. I've been saying it, publicly, that when we tell our own children at home that if you have to compete in the outside world, you need to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself properly, and then you will be prepared for the outside world. But that logic doesn't apply, and our policymakers do not apply that to our own economy. We want to go and be part of the global economy without any preparedness. We don't want to, I would ask the panelists here or any other, the participant, you tell me one area, and I've also done some bit of negotiations in the WTO. We also used to scratch our heads. What is it that India can offer? Because all the time we are saying we can't open up agriculture. Agriculture is, we have the small, poor farmers there. Manufacturing, there are those poor, these MSMEs there. So we used to say all this in the WTO. Yeah? In services, what do you have to offer? Only possibly IT, ITES. All the other sectors, we don't have the capacity to go and offer any sector. We can't allow those foreign players to come into our economy. Yeah. So the point is that if this is the situation that we have put ourselves into, why do we talk about RCEP? RCEP, in the beginning, when this government came into power in 2015, they gave a roadmap saying that we are not going to be liberalizing too much as far as China is concerned. So we are actually very conservative in offering China market access. But as we moved on, we found that the government was being extremely generous, and we were opening our markets very generously to China. And as Ajay was mentioning, that when China was trampling on us, even with higher tariffs on the most favored nation tariffs, if you bring down tariffs to zero, you can just imagine what would be the situation, what the situation would have been. So some of us actually wrote actively against RCEP, because there were others who said, no, RCEP allows us to form this coalition, fighting China on the South China Sea and all those kinds of the strategic interests. I think we should be very clear that strategic interests have to be decided on separate forums. On economic forums, economic issues are discussed. I would also like to sort of just respond to Mr. Sridhar's question. Why is China hurting India when China has to gain from India? I think the dragon will have to be seen in a very long-term perspective. You can't actually see the dragon in short-term frames. I'll give you one example. China is, in 2015, they had a Make in China policy. It's called Make in China 2025. But if you look at the document, it says that China wants to be the world leader in the manufacturing sector by 2049. And they actually started working on it from 2015. Now, there are all kinds of economic interests that China has in this region. It has the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. You just don't know in which way they are actually trying to construct the BRI. And I'm absolutely certain, and maybe the later generations will, can judge what I'm saying today, that China would have significant interest in this region, in which he's actually, opened up, this conflict with India, right through. It's actually talking about bringing a railroad through the Himalayas to Nepal, and to give Nepal an alternative exit route, because Nepal is upset with India. So I think China and China has actually tested the waters. In the past, we have had conflicts in Arunachal. We had the Doklam problem. We've had these problems all the time, but nothing stopped us from getting closer to China. We got closer to China despite the fact that we're having all these border conflicts. So why should China assume that when they have another conflict in this in the Tibet region, or Ladakh region, India is not going to come back to the normal? Of course, the situation today is that here China did not anticipate that, or maybe that, they're going to be killing so many soldiers. So the situation has got different. But I'm not sure because the ease at which we come back to the old normal, and we don't go to the new phase that we need to do something in order to counter Chinese, and I would say here that today your basic strength comes from your economic strength. The US is worried about China because of its economic strength. The military strength comes later. So China is actually consolidating itself in the economic sphere, and the rest actually follows. And unfortunately for us, there has been no strategic thinking in terms of strengthening our economy. Our economy is completely flat. We just don't know what to do about it. Even now, even in this the COVID crisis, where many of us have been arguing that the public sector, Raja also mentioned this, the public sector should be producing, should be tasked with given the responsibility to produce APIs, and they can.
No, I only hope the government listens to Professor Dhar, and there is somebody there to listen to. Right. Because unless I don't know who's going to do all this. We have said several things that have to be done, but as he says, the boys and girls he sends from the universities, when they join government, they don't know where they are. So even though I don't like to sound pessimistic, I hope we could reach somewhere. As Mr. Rastogi was saying, they are too far ahead of us, and maybe bureaucrats and foreign experts like Mr. Dogra will be able to tell the government how we can reach them. And of course, they are not going to stand still. But I think hope is the only word.
I think Mr. Vijay Kumar correctly summed it up. But the only one thing is that I just wanted to ask the panelists that do you think that this kind of a blow hot, blow cold with not only with China, but with China. So with China would have with only with India or with all other countries, because then this would be their kind of modus operandi with all countries in the rim of Asia. Or is it going to be only India? Because then that will give us, as Vijay Kumar said, all the more urge to correct course right now and take policies to ensure that what needs to be done immediately to face China what needs to be done further ahead to face China economically is more important than getting very emotionally taken away and then try to just shout from the podiums.
Half a minute.
Right.
And that is to Mr. Dogra.
Okay.
Sir, I would like to get an answer from you whether you agree with Mr. Dhar that it is useless for India to join the RCEP. The supplementary to that is, our joining RCEP, will it help India or China? And why is China more interested in our joining the RCEP than ourselves, than India itself? If you can.
Do you really want me to answer this question? Because you answered it yourself. So there is the answer, that the terms that were being offered were not favorable to India, and as it turns out, more favorable to rest of the other countries. You know, otherwise it was very easy sometimes to argue that a little Thailand can stand up to China,